Having trouble running away from your assailants? Do your punches lack any force? Did your mother just turn into a snail/Lorax hybrid in front of your face and you assumed that that was normal? Well, that's because you're in a dream. That's right. You're in a dream. This is not a commercial. You are actually in a dream. Wake up. Wake up. You're actually asleep right now. Wake up. Wake up!
Hi, Robert Englund here, a.k.a. Freddy fucking Krueger. And you're listening to Horror Movie Talk.
Hello and welcome to Horror Movie Talk.
An opinionated and accidentally funny horror movie review show. Go, 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 go.
Took a stroll through the scraggly woods. He had no face! Horror!
Sabrina, don't just stare at it, eat it.
New theatrical releases always get priority.
But we also review older horror movies, both good and horrible.
Wow, that didn't sound good.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Bryce Hanson, the cute one, and with me as always, is...
The ugly one, Professor David Day. I am the foremost expert in scare no nos.
If it's your first time joining Horror Movie Talk...
It's gonna be a good time for you. Let me tell you, motherfucker.
Every episode is gonna be this good.
Buckle up, Buttercup. Why is that, Bryce? What do we have coming down the pipe on this episode where we review
Nightmare on Elm Street?
What's coming up?
Oh, we get to interview the man himself, Robert Englund.
Oh, who's that? Oh, is that...
Oh, it happens to be the person that plays Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street films.
You mean the most iconic slasher film maybe ever made?
Yeah.
And bad guy ever?
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that guy. We interviewed that guy.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Anyways, just want to briefly mention at the top our website, horrormovietalk.com. Go there and check out past episodes, links to our social media, and horror-themed blog posts. We post new episodes every Wednesday, so please subscribe. And if you are an Apple user, please leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts. That really helps us out.
It sure does. You guys have been doing great at that. We appreciate every single time you lie, cheat, and steal your way into someone else's iPhone and give us a review on it. It's been working, and we love you for it.
So yeah, we got a great show today. We mentioned, we're going to be talking about the original A Nightmare on Elm Street and talking to Freddy fucking Krueger himself.
I'm so amped up right now. I'm so fucking jacked.
As always, we'll start out by giving a brief review and our score for the film. We score on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being a miserable dredge, where it makes you angry, 5 being an average film that hits all the expected marks, and 10 being so... Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus
No, keep going.
Christ.
No, keep going. Keep it going. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good about this.
David just took off his shirt. Yeah.
What's up, buddy?
Oh, man. What are you, Bert Kreischer?
I'm gonna make this
all of a sudden.
Oh, man. I just needed to... I'm getting hot in here.
10 being so good transcends genre boundaries. We are in a basement. It's not that hot.
I'm hot.
After we give our score, we'll get into spoilers and take a deeper dive into what we liked and hated about the film. Later on, we will be... Oh, God.
Describe what's happening.
He's jiggling his stomach.
Oh, man.
Just...
It's mesmerizing.
Oh, man. Later on, we'll be interviewing Mr. Robert Englund about his latest project on Adult Swim, which is already premiered.
Yeah.
Not his episode.
No, but we are, of course, talking about J.J. Villard's Fairy Tales, which comes on, I believe, on...
I think it was 12:30 on Sundays.
12:15 on Sundays,
okay.
I think.
And then we'll read some comments from social media in a segment we call It Came From Social Media. So let's get right into the review. The hits just keep on coming over here at Horror Movie Talk. We just did Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We did Friday the 13th. We did
The Exorcist, which is in the bag.
Yeah. We did The Wicker Man.
Oh, man. You know what? Actually, it's interesting you mentioned The Wicker Man. I've been thinking about The Wicker Man. Like, some of these movies stay with me, and some of them just leave right away, you know? Yeah. And The Wicker Man is in my mind every day. Every day it's in my mind. And it's because it was such a left field sort of thing.
Yeah.
Where it was like, God damn, I hate this movie halfway through. and then
well, it had singing in it.
And then it was the worst. I can't stand music in movies. And then it just came through with the fucking craziest ending I can possibly imagine.
Yeah. So I think now we've hit almost every slasher franchise.
Almost.
We still got Hellraiser to hit.
Yeah.
Okay. So we rewatched A Nightmare on Elm Street and reminded ourselves why this franchise has such staying power. Here is the trailer.
The kids of Elm Street don't know it yet, but something is coming to get them.
There's something out there, isn't there?
You could just see cuts happening.
What did that, Lieutenant?
I don't know.
Tina! There's a coroner got to say. He's in the jar and puking since he saw it.
They're gonna kill me for sure.
Did you do it?
There was somebody else there.
He was locked in a room with a girl who went in alive and came out in a rubber bag.
No one knows where it came from or who it will visit next.
Nancy? There's something wrong with you. You're imagining things.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Do you believe in the boogeyman?
No.
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
No! She's the only one who can stop it. If she fails...
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
No one will survive. Wes Craven, director of The Hills Have Eyes and Last House on the Left, a new masterpiece in fantasy terror, Nightmare on Elm Street.
No, wow. I was just reminded of briefly the bad lip reading of Empire Strikes Back, where it's Yoda. He goes,
you're talking about the YouTube channel?
Yeah, the YouTube channel, bad lip reading, and it's Yoda going, "Don't fall asleep." Don't fall asleep. Man, I should have gotten that. I should have gotten that sound drop. Anyways, A Nightmare on Elm Street can be bought or rented on Amazon. Hey, and if you're going to do that, click through the button in the banner of our website in Horror Movie Talk, because we'll get a taste of it. Bought or rented at Amazon or your favorite video thingy. A Nightmare on Elm Street wastes no time introducing you to one of horror's greatest villains. Tina Gray, played by Amanda Weiss. Not her. She's not the greatest villain. She's being chased
Tina Gray
in a dream by an unknown assailant with knives for fingers. Before the fedora-wearing, pizza-faced man can introduce himself with a milady, Tina wakes up in cold sweats. Later, we learn that this vivid nightmare is shared by her group of friends, including Nancy Thompson, played by Heather Langenkamp. Yeah. Do you pronounce the J? The G?
Yes, I believe you do.
Langenkamp.
Langenkamp.
Glenn, played by Johnny Depp, introducing Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
And her boyfriend, Rod, played by Sue Garcia?
Probably Sue. Yeah.
Sue Garcia. Soon we learn that the scary man in everyone's dream is a formerly alive child killer and pedophile named Freddy Krueger, played by the inimitable Robert Englund.
Actually, he's just cast in this movie as Fred Krueger. I don't believe they actually call him Freddy once. I think they just keep calling him Fred in this movie. Yeah.
Oh, well, he's Freddy. This slasher upped the ante of the 80s slashers by unabashedly adding fantasy elements into the genre. The Freddy franchise became one of the most lucrative horror franchises of all time, and for good reason. The premise of a killer that comes to you in your dreams and can kill you in real life is truly unescapable. No zombie fortress or guns can save you from Freddy. Everyone sleeps.
Yeah.
It's like the perfect premise.
Yeah.
The film not only introduced one of horror's most iconic figures, it was also the bloodiest mainstream horror movie up to that point. It's a tightly packaged and thoroughly conceived film. Most of the scenes and special effects hold up even today. Some effects, admittedly, fall flat, and a few enter the realm of so bad they're good. Regardless, it still deserves its place as one of the genre's tentpole films and cemented the creator, Wes Craven, as one of horror's greatest minds.
You know, you said most of the scenes and special effects hold up even to this day. Some effects admittedly fall flat, and a few enter the realm of so bad they're good.
One of the reasons is that there's so many.
They go for everything. They send it. They send it. They send it. Turn the stairs into goop. Sent. Turn the phone into a mouth. Sent. They just keep throwing shit at you.
Yeah.
And it's like so much of it lands that you forget the stuff that doesn't.
Right.
And this movie is so intense from beginning to end that and admittedly there's a little lull at about the 2/3 mark, but it's a crazy fucking film with incredible pacing and really well conceived in terms of just keeping you upset. Like it's Wes Craven really, really meant to keep you upset the whole way. And Robert Englund, knocks it out of the fucking park in terms of just being a believable, terrifying, horrible bad guy. But the other thing about this film that really strikes me is this, and I know I've used this word overly too much in the last few episodes, but this is like true 80s nihilism, and the kids are not all right. Like, this is like Gen X, like parental apathy, mom and dad, the house is coming apart, every family's split, like mom doesn't care whether you live or die. In fact, she's kind of working towards you dying, really, whether or not she realizes it. But that's the point. She doesn't even realize it.
Low-key alcoholic.
Yeah, high-key alcohol. You would never see the use of drugs like you see in this movie, in a movie even made today. You just don't see a woman reaching for a bottle of alcohol and then like jokingly, like towards the end, she says, "I'm done with alcohol, just don't feel like it anymore." But it's a dream. So it's like the implication is so fucked up. I don't know. It's a really, really messed up movie in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. So I give it a score of 10 out of 10.
I can't argue with this.
Yeah.
You know, this is such a strong entry into horror in general. Like,
yeah, as far as a starting point for a franchise, this one is probably the strongest. I mean, even Child's Play is great.
Yeah,
but
it's great.
not.
It does not come swinging like this.
It's like Nightmare on Elm Street is like just fully formed out of the womb. Yeah. It's there. It hits the ground running. It has all of the elements that all of the other ones have.
Yes. Yeah. I totally agree. And it's just swinging for the fence every time. Yeah. And yeah, they don't all land, but I would totally agree. 10 out of 10. Just on, in my mind, I want to take it down a peg because I'm like, it's not that, right. Because between viewings, I forget.
Yeah.
And then I watch and I'm like, oh yeah, this thing's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
And Johnny Depp seems like a regular person in this, which is impressive. That must have taken incredible acting chops.
Well, it was before he got, his brain infected by all those scarves that he wore.
Have you seen him featured on the latest couple Your Mom's House podcasts?
Yeah.
Where he's started an Instagram and he's in his dark cave with a bunch of real candles and he's like, hello. It appears in this dark times, and it's like, Jesus Christ, you're a fucking nut job.
I love that they're like...
He's living in a real cave or something like that.
They're making the point of, like, he's not going the route of, like, the insincere celebrity trying to, like, make this really interesting and like poppy video. He's like literally just Johnny Depp talking ad nauseum about boring things.
Oh man, is he boring. And he's so clearly out of just so far out of touch with reality.
Okay, so before we get into the spoiler section, just want to take a moment for mid-roll. First of all, public service announcement. Horror Movie Talk reviews new movies most of the time, or when we can, and that means we rely heavily on theaters. Our favorite theaters are the small, privately owned ones in our community. During this COVID-19 shutdown, all of these theaters are in serious jeopardy. Horror Movie Talk has decided to help these theaters in the only way we know how, which is to talk about it and to feature them on our podcast. First of all, just what the local independent theaters are in your community. Please think about supporting them. Today, we'd like to help out our hometown theater, Kiggins Theater in Vancouver, Washington. This Depression-era theater has had several lives, from movie theater to church to antique store, and now back as a fully restored movie theater. The Kiggins has been host to hundreds of events over the years, including film festivals, film premieres, concerts, lectures, and private parties. They are a privately owned community hub for independent and classic films. Like most of these small, unique theaters, they are struggling to survive the shutdown. Whether you are local or not, you can support the Kiggins by going to kigginstheater.com. That's KIGGINSTHEATRE.com, and either buy tickets to a virtual screening. You can actually watch the movies through their website, and they get a cut of the box office that way. And I think there's one independent horror movie on there. I can't remember what it's called. It's got like...
Well, you guys should head over to the website and check it out.
Yeah. Or buy gift certificates to use once they reopen. So yeah, do that or support your local theaters. We want to recognize our new patrons, Sarah Y. and John M.
Dude, thank you guys so much, guys, for and gals, for joining up and helping support us. It's been very helpful.
Yeah, we really appreciate the support. We do this for free. We probably put in like 10 to 20 hours a week,
easily,
conservatively, on each episode between the two of us, and it's a labor of love.
And we're getting to the point where we're actually starting to think about and talk about ways to make the show better with funds that are coming in instead of just covering our operating costs. Yeah. So the more patrons we get, the more support we get from everybody, the better the show gets. And every cent of that goes back into the show. We're not taking anything.
And listen, if you like the show, you're going to like the perks on Patreon. We have a whole separate podcast called The Afterpod where we leave the mics running. You get to know us a little better.
Just wait to listen to today's one. Oh, my God.
Oh, good Lord.
Fucking go off.
Anyways, go check out our Patreon, patreon.com/horrormovietalk, and you can check out all the different tiers.
I think I need to drop a little bit of a teaser. I need to give everybody just a little taste. I need to give everybody a little taste. So get this. Okay, you've already heard this, but I'm going back over it just to kind of, okay, my wife's like, hey, you know what? Me and the kids are going to do this thing that I guarantee you won't want to do. You want to go do it? And I'm like, no. She's like, well, it's coming up in 4 or 5 days, so let's do it. Now, my wife's a Patreon member, so we'll see how this pans out. We'll see how much of a fan she really is, because I don't know if she listens to these things. But she's like, you want to go do this thing that you definitely don't want to go do? I'm like, no. 4 days in advance? No. She's like, okay, it's your loss. And then the next day, she's like, we're still going to go do it. Are you sure you don't want to go? Yep, 100% sure. Yes, definitely sure. I'll just tease it.
Join our Patreon to learn the exciting conclusion in the Afterpod. If you like horror movies, you probably know about Shudder.com, the horror movie and television show streaming service. If you use the code HMT at checkout, you get a 30-day free trial instead of the 7-day free trial.
A fucking 7-day free trial. I hate that thing.
Another way you can support the podcast is buying or renting any movie or product on Amazon if you click through the green button in the header of our website. Also,
you guys should definitely check out our resident artist, Dustin Goebel, because he is he first of all, I don't know that his 9 to 5 exists anymore. I think he's existing on commissions and stuff right now. So if there's never been a better time to support Dustin over on Instagram. Check his stuff out at dgoebel00. That's at DGOEBEL00 on Instagram.
Yeah, look at his work. I mean, there will probably be something that you would be like, man, I wish I could buy that and hang that in my office or something, and he will sell it to you.
Yeah, and
and also he takes commissions. He does like these great illustrations.
He's working on a rework for our brand logo.
Yeah, we've got
right now.
We've got stuff in the works right now for horror movie talk.
So cool! You guys are in for a treat.
Yeah, please check him out. Also at MaxAllen1235 at Max_Allen1235. He made the awesome new intro music for the podcast, and at the end of the episode, we're going to play another little soundbite that he was inspired to make from the last episode. That's it for mid-roll. Thanks again for listening, and let's get into spoilers.
Spoilers. I thought that might go well.
I mean, lots to talk about this movie. I don't even think I got all the bullet points that...
You definitely didn't. It looks like you fell asleep or something.
These are all the ones that I actually wrote while I was watching it. So it opens like directly with Freddy forging the knife glove.
Yeah.
So it really sets the tone, and it starts out in a dream, which is a great way to start it. And it's kind of a subtle dream. You know, you only know it's a dream because there's random sheep sitting around.
Okay, this is something I was like, how do I segue into the sheep? What the fuck were the sheep? Oh, it's because it's a dream and you count sheep in a dream, maybe?
Yeah. I mean, it's just like a non sequitur animal appearing in the middle of a hallway. It's like, oh, I get it. She's in a dream. I
gotta say, okay, like the just bar none, the one thing that doesn't work for me about generally Nightmare on Elm Street movies, this industrial furnace room setting. Everything
is in like the boiler room of the Titanic.
It just doesn't work for me. I don't like that. I don't like that. It just feels, I guess I've just watched too many Mystery Science Theater 3000s where, you know, big McLarge, where they're just running through giant industrial complexes that are meant to look futuristic because there's pipes everywhere, but it just ends up falling flat and being kind of dumb. And it's like used for easy ambiance, I feel like, and it makes sense for this first movie. But the problem is they base his backstory entirely on the boiler room, right? It's like, well, you know, and so then you have to carry it over into all the other ones, and I just don't like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a function of it. When you get to the boiler room, you know shit's about to get real.
Yeah.
And the labyrinthian nature of it is kind of part of a nightmare of like, you know, when you have like a recurring dream, you end up in like that weird environment where, it's like you're lost because you don't know where stuff is going. So that's kind of how that boiler room operates.
It just doesn't,
in these films.
It just doesn't pull it off as well as I would hope. You know, there's a certain way that you can make an audience confused, and it's not with.
I feel like in later films, if I remember right, I mean, it's been so long since I've watched them, but I feel like some of them it gets like epic in scale. Like it feels like they're in the middle of a Death Star or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To where it's like taking it to the extreme. Anyways, yeah, so I mean, it opens with that, and nothing really happens other than she wakes up and is scared. And you don't find out that there's any danger until a lot later in the movie, but it's already like disturbing. It's like, man, what was that all about?
Yeah. And it doesn't start with our main protagonist.
Right.
Heather Langenkamp. It starts with, what's her name?
Well, the character's name is Tina.
Tina, yes. It starts with Tina. And, the casting in this is
don't
great.
sleep on Heather Langenkamp. She does a lot to carry this movie. Like,
she sure does. And Carrie and I were talking last night while we were watching it, and I was like, she reminds me of Denise Richards.
Yeah.
Like, her look is just one sliver away from Denise Richards. Yeah. Just a little
and
younger.
She's already a better actress. She was probably in her teens still.
How dare you? No, you're right. Yeah, she definitely, she comes back in, I think, 3, in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and she's like, instead of being like 16 or 17, she's clearly, 20 or 18 or 19, and she looks like a female, like a grown woman. A woman.
So they find out, that they're all having similar dreams of this scary character. And then when Tina's also the first to die, and that scene holds up. Like she's caught in her dream, Freddy's going after her, and then you see...
Well, she's sleeping with the scuzzy old boyfriend, right? Okay, before we get to Tina's death, I gotta say, like, so it's Johnny Depp, Heather Langenkamp, and Tina hanging out at Tina's house. Why? Because Tina's mom's not there. And so, it's time to shack up kind of thing. And Johnny Depp and Heather Langenkamp are in like a innocent relationship.
Yeah.
Like a kiss you on the cheek.
Like probably an actual realistic
high school relationship,
not a movie
right
relationship.
Yes, exactly.
Tina and Rod are in a 80s teenage movie relationship.
Right.
Where he's like real rapey. And like
real rapey. This is where I was.
I'm gonna rape you.
This is exactly where I was going with this. So they hear some spooky
okay.
They hear some spooky noises. I'm so glad you got the exact same vibe off of this, because they hear some spooky noises outside. Johnny Depp goes out. He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna hurt you if you're out here. If there's somebody out here messing with us, I'm gonna get you." He turns his back, and then Rod jumps on him. And they have a little, punching you in the shoulder, kind of back and forth quarrel sort of moment.
He does the real bully thing.
Then Johnny Depp's like, "Hey, you know what? Fuck you, man." And Rod pulls out a fucking switchblade.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I mean, this might have been a thing in the 80s. I don't know. I was pretty young.
Yeah. Well, I love that he pulls out the switchblade and Johnny Depp's like, Jesus, like backing off, and he's like, look at him. He's afraid that I'm going to stab him.
It's like he's scared for his life.
It's like, yeah, you took out
you have a
you're
knife.
Brandishing a blade.
Yeah. And then immediately after threatening Johnny Depp's life, he walks behind Tina, grabs her around the neck, in a noogie or rape pose. And it's like, "Come on, baby, it's time to go make up inside." And she's like, "I don't want to." And he's like, "We're gonna." And then she's like, and you're like, "Whoa, that's so rapey. This is like basically rape." And Carrie's like, "Why do I feel so bad?" And I was like, "'Cause this is rape."
He's shown everyone that he has a knife and that he's a danger.
Right. And then he's willing to pull it on you.
I love that they name him Rod. It's a little on the nose. Mm-hmm. It's like... The only more on the nose name would be if they named him
Dick
McRamhard.
Yeah. Dick McSticky. Yeah, I'm glad that you got the same weird fucking rape vibe off of that scene as I did.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it could have just been thrown away. I feel like lots of people may not just be tuned in enough. Like they're just like waiting for the stuff to start.
Well, I mean, in modern times, it feels very out of place. In the 80s, that's like the tamest version of that.
I don't know.
Like,
this
I mean,
movie-
you watch movies like Animal House, and it just straight up has, rape in it.
Yeah. Oh, she's passed out. Or something like that. I don't really remember Animal House.
So yeah, that happens. And I think the function of that is like Rod is, you don't really care that much about Rod. And so when Rod is suspected of murder, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, but to your point, like when Tina, so that night they do it, have sexual intercourse, and well, I guess
I'm a pretty sick guy.
I guess I'm a pretty sick guy because this next scene, I could not believe how disturbing it was.
Yeah. So inside the dream, she's being attacked by Freddy Krueger, and then outside in real life, Rod is watching her as her stomach is ripped open.
Then she levitates off the bed.
Yeah.
Spinning around uncontrollably. And then she like slams down into the corner of the room. And then she starts like being dragged up the wall and then onto the ceiling. And she's like spinning around on the ceiling and there's blood shooting out of her. And it's like, good God, and it's thinking of being Rod in this scenario. Yeah. And you're seeing this shit. This is the darkest shit. That's like taking the Exorcist level disturbing vibe thing and just cranking right past it.
Yeah.
It's incredible. The visuals.
Yeah. So the idea of being able to be murdered in real life and from your dreams, such a great concept. And they really use it to good effect here. The one effect that when I was mentioning some effects don't quite hold up, the one that seems like a non sequitur is, I think it's in the first dream, where Freddy holds up his hand and he's like, hey, watch this. And he cuts off 2 fingers. And he's like,
oh, yeah.
It's like, and that's it. But it's just like, look what I can do.
But look what I can do. A little Mad TV reference for you. Yeah, but this first dream, the Tina's first dream sequence is this is exactly what I'm talking about with sending it. Like, they fucking sent it. So first, in this dream sequence, he looks at her and he slices off two fingers, and this green goop is squirting out of him. And then he like jumps on her and she puts her hand on his face and his face just falls off.
Yeah, it's just a
like,
skull underneath. That still works.
And Carrie's like, I watched this when I was 6. And I was like, Jesus Christ. If I had watched this when I was 6, I'd have killed myself. I would have just gone up on top of the roof and jumped off. Like, this was so up, and it just cutting off his own fingers, his face falling off, her levitating off the bed, being being dragged up the wall, being spun around, and then being eviscerated in front of this dude. Like, ugh.
Well, see, that's a testament to the character, is that when I was younger, I didn't really watch these movies because I was too young. Mm-hmm. But I knew who Freddy Krueger was.
Oh, hell yeah, man.
He's iconic.
Yeah.
All you have to do is see him on the poster and you're like, oh shit, that guy's going to get me.
Yeah, he, like I say in the interview that's coming up, I tell Robert Englund, hey man, you fucked me up. Like, I didn't even really watch any of your movies, but I pissed the bed instead of going to the bathroom because I was sure you were going to get me, you know?
And this was just last week.
How does that make you feel? He's like, pretty good. I'm glad that I emasculated you in front of your wife.
Uh-huh. So were there any effects that didn't hold up for you?
There are plenty of effects that didn't hold up. The weird thing is contextually they kind of hold up.
Yeah.
The ones that don't work on a literal level kind of work on a conceptual level.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, so like maybe the effect isn't the best looking, or you can see the
one that I think of that how you're describing is the arms outstretched one where his arms are
reaching too far.
Like, no, he's like scraping the fence or whatever from like 20 feet away.
That, Oh yes, that's right. No, that's so disturbing to me. Still,
Really?
yeah, that speaks to the little kid in me of like, ew, what? Like it's so strange. That's like a practical effect that looks wrong, and because it looks wrong, it's kind of added to.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, I just think it doesn't, because it looks like you just like, okay, well that's where his shirt's sagging, where his hand in, and it transitions to a pole.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
but conceptually it works. You're like, yeah, that would be scary as fuck.
Good point. The one that I think of is the stairs, where she's running up the stairs.
Oh man, I think that's perfect.
It is. This is exactly what, and this is, you know, this is what we're talking about. Conceptually, it works brilliantly because everyone can relate to your feet being stuck in cement and trying to get away in your dreams, and you can't. But when you're looking at the screen, you can see the intent is that the stairs are made of carpet. You know, there is carpet, but it just looks like spray foam painted stair color to me.
Okay.
So you kind of see the wires, so to speak, and I go, oh well, yeah. Obviously, she's going to step on the next one, and it's going to, because that's foam. I can see that's foam
so it's
with
like
my eyes.
It's like in a cartoon where there's a panel that's a slightly different color. You're like, all right, well, something's going to happen there.
Exactly. but so it does work conceptually because I can relate to it, but just literally or physically looking at it, it doesn't quite hit.
And as far the worst effect, but in my opinion, the best one, because it's so bad it's good, is the final effect where her mother is pulled through the window of the door.
Oh, yeah. She's just
like transitions immediately into inflatable sex doll coming through a window.
Bye-bye. Yeah, that's a goofy one. There's so many. Like, there's so many.
Yeah.
And some of them are so quick that even though they're shitty, they work in the moment, or they probably worked in the moment. Like Freddy's tongue mouth becoming the receiver for the phone.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm your boyfriend now. And he's like, he sticks his tongue in her mouth, and she's like, ah. And that's such an This movie is like, there's a lot of rape. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of bad touch.
Yeah.
And the whole movie's based off of the bad touch vibe.
Yeah. So originally, Wes Craven specifically wanted Fred Krueger to be a pedophile. Mm-hmm. Like,
I heard pedophile mentioned in this movie. I think I heard the word, didn't I?
I don't remember it mentioned, but in the synopsis,
it
says pedophile.
Yes, in the synopsis it does.
But it doesn't really say it specifically in the movie, and I think they forced him to kind of tone it down because, you know, we just don't talk about pedophiles.
Right.
I mean, right. You just don't talk about pedophiles in polite company because, I mean, your priest might be in
right.
But there's a lot of allusions to it. There's a lot of just like creepy vibes that you're getting off of Krueger.
It's so, like, the whole movie's bad touch.
The tongue, like when she's in the bath and like his glove comes up out of the water.
Yes, that's like we.
It's like the level of, you know, when the production code in the 50s was going on in the movie industry, where you couldn't show anything controversial, but they got around it the best that they could by alluding to it.
Right.
Like, you can't show, like, on I Love Lucy, they couldn't show like a double or a queen bed because married couples don't sleep together.
They couldn't share a bed. Yeah. That would allude to sexual intercourse.
Yeah. Even showing someone pregnant was like, don't. I mean, that's people don't want to see that.
That's fucking disgusting. Are you kidding me?
So, but they'd like allude to it as, you know, like Hitchcock showing a train going through a tunnel kind of thing, you know. So there's a lot of that in this movie where it's like,
Lucy, tonight we're going to push the beds together.
Yeah, it's not saying Fred Krueger is a pedophile and he molests kids, or that he's going to molest you in your dreams. It's like, he's just kind of a little too familiar.
Here's a shot of a pubescent girl in a tub, and some knife fingers right next to her vagina. You're looking at her through her legs.
Yeah.
And here are some knife fingers right next to her vagina. And that, man, what a perfect meta. That is like that scene where his hand reaches up out of the tub and she's falling asleep in the tub. The perfect metaphor for Aunt Flo coming to visit. It's just like,
this is not where I thought you were going.
There it is. I mean, it's all wrapped up so neatly in one little scene.
Jeez. So, I mean, there's some real iconic effect scenes in this movie. So that's one of them. Mm-hmm. The hand coming up through the tub. The other one is Johnny Depp's death.
Oh my God.
Is, I think, the bloodiest scene up to that point in a mainstream movie. I think like Cannibal Holocaust.
No, The Shining had technically more gallons of blood.
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
guess that's true.
But I mean, yes, it is so iconically okay. So Johnny Depp is in bed. He's got a TV on his pelvis, and he's falling asleep. It's late at night, and the bed, or Freddy's hands come up through the bed and pull Johnny Depp down.
Yeah, into a hole.
And like everything gets sucked into this hole, like the TV and a turntable and like a bunch of shit.
Yeah,
and then it just a fountain of blood shoots up, and so much of this movie is like dreams. Wes Craven had such a great vision for this movie. He's like, look, not only does it have to be disturbing, it has to be dream-like.
Yeah.
It can't be normal. The blood can't come out of the bed and land on the floor.
Yeah.
The blood has to settle as though gravity is inverted on the ceiling.
Yeah.
And so this fountain, this fire hydrant of blood just comes shooting up out of this bed. And it's settling on the ceiling, and it's so fucking alarming looking.
Yeah.
It's just
what's the other scene that's, I mean, the first death is also super iconic.
Oh yeah.
I mean, so lots of good stuff in there. So they cut back on the pedophile element and just called him a child killer. Now, here's a question for you. What would be scarier? If you were haunted in your dreams by, as a teenager or preteen, haunted by someone that will kill you, or haunted by like an actual dream predator, pedophile. It's like, hey, anytime you go to sleep, you're gonna raped by a creepy man.
Wait, what's the question exactly?
What would be scarier?
What's the question?
What would be worse?
What are the two options?
So either you get murdered.
Either the stakes are I actually die, or I actually get raped.
Yeah. Consistently.
Die.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably just prefer getting murdered.
I feel like you fear death less.
Yeah. Like how disturbing would that be though if they just went there, he's like, "Oh no, I'm not going to kill these kids. Like I love kids.
I love them a lot."
Yeah, I'm a pedophile. I'm a
God
lover of
damn,
children.
look at those hot children. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, that's even just the slight allusion to it is disturbing enough, but the idea of
it is a toss-up. I mean, they're in the same realm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one wants to have that done to them. No one.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe somebody. I don't know. I'm not trying to kink shame you.
Yeah. It's such a perfect premise for a villain. Like, just because you can't escape sleeping.
Yeah.
And the fact that he rules the dream world, he can do anything. He's not limited in any way.
Right.
And so the stuff where Michael Myers is like, you see him off in the distance and you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Spooky man standing. What's he going to do over there?
Spooky man standing.
Look at him. He's behind those sheets. What's he doing? Then up, he disappears. Like, oh, well, how did he do that? Or like he's far away and then all of a sudden he's behind you stabbing you. It's like kind of ruins the the suspension of disbelief. You're like, oh, okay, well, how did that happen? If he's like, they try to imbue some of the like Michael Myers and Jason with semi, fantastical powers of appearing whenever it's convenient to him.
Yeah.
Or whenever it can be most scary. But it really is like, well, that doesn't make sense. But okay, I'm scared because it was shocking. This setup allows that, and it doesn't break with the world.
Yeah, it's built in.
Yeah.
He's baked in with these impossible powers. Yeah. And I mean, but that's a double-edged sword, because if you can do everything, then you're Superman, and Superman's boring. Yeah. It's like, so it's kind of a double-edged sword, but it's done well in this movie. It just gets fucked out later. This movie is pretty untouchable in terms of just being kind of blameless in premise. It's so perfect. It's I've heard it said, but it stands to be true. Freddy did to dreams what Jaws did to water.
Yeah.
It just made it like it just weaponized it, It was already kind of spooky, Dreams, what are those? Sometimes they're spooky and I don't like that. And then it's like, oh, it puts a face to it.
Yeah. The other thing that really works well is Tina in a body bag. When
I love it.
Yeah.
It's like Scatman Crothers coming back to Danny over and over. And he's like, hey, you need some help? And it's like, whoa, that's kind of disturbing. But yeah, Tina keeps coming back in this gross body bag, and she's all fucked up. Yeah. She's all bloody and gross.
And then, so what happens is, they figure out like, okay, well, we just can't go to sleep. And so, gosh, what is the character's name? Heather
Langenkamp?
What's the actual character?
I don't know. I'm so bad at remembering character names.
Here, Nancy. Jesus Christ. So anyways,
geez, Midge.
So Nancy kind of figures out the rules that she can't sleep, and so she's staying awake and trying to get anyone to sit and watch while she sleeps to wake her up.
Everyone is so unreliable.
Yeah.
like the mom in this movie, like the implication of the two parents, the mom and the dad, these bumbling fools who have no desire. I mean, all outward appearances is, hey, stay safe, but they're not paying attention to the actual thing that she keeps talking about.
Yeah.
That's such a, like, the kids are not all right thing and theme that's kind of a very common theme in the 80s.
Yeah, so she's keeping herself awake by taking caffeine pills. So obviously she hasn't seen the iconic episode from Saved by the Bell where Jesse gets addicted to caffeine pills.
I haven't seen that.
Do you remember this?
No.
Well, I pulled a clip.
Oh, okay. This is from Saved by the Bell?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
A very special episode.
Jesse, hey, just calm down. It's okay.
You're right.
It's okay.
Everything will be okay.
Yeah.
I just need one of these.
Pills? You mean you really are taking drugs?
I need them.
Jesse, give me those.
I need them, Zach. I have to sing.
Jesse, you can't sing tonight.
Yes, I can. I'm so excited. I'm so scared.
Wow.
The very special drug episode, they're like, hey, we got to show the effects of addiction to drugs, and the drug that they pick is caffeine pills.
The obvious choice. Yeah. Caffeine. Let me tell you, so there's these things called nootropics. Have you heard of these? They're these it's like a variety of different substances, a lot of mushrooms and stuff like that.
Okay.
That are supposed to have like some clarifying effect on your mind. So I was like, yeah, I'll get some of these, see what they're all about. Take them a couple times. Now, for those of you who don't know, I do enjoy substances. I'm just not good with them. Mm-hmm. I'm not what you would call someone who has good trips. And now you're thinking, oh, trips, what's that got to do with nootropics? These are just like modern day healthy pep pills kind of thing. No. That girl who was on that bad caffeine trip, that's me on nootropics.
I'm so excited.
I get so paranoid.
I'm so excited.
I get so paranoid. Like, they're just paranoia pills for me.
Okay.
I just take them and I'm like...
One of my favorite lines in this film is after Johnny Depp, is liquefied. The cops are in there, and the paramedics are coming in, and one of the cops goes like, "You don't need a stretcher up there. You need a mop," which is like true. It just looks like he was put in a blender.
Yeah, there's nothing left but just he's just been blenderized. Yeah, the ninja.
So I mean, it's a great film. Do you have any other things that you want to talk about?
Well, it says here that you think you should get that half shirt outfit.
Oh yeah. The other thing, like the half
Johnny
shirts,
Depp.
the half shirts on men in the early '80s. Like,
what was that about?
Could I just bring that back? Just me in particular.
I think we should let our listeners decide.
It's kind of a thing right now for girls to have those half shirts. At least I see it on TikTok.
Yeah,
like the shirts that you raise your arms and it covers your boobs, but I mean, you get a little like sliver of underboob.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've been recording this whole episode sans with no shirt at all.
He's
you like that?
He's grabbing his nipples and like pulling up. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Well, this will go on our Instagram. You'll get if you guys want to head on over to Horror Movie Talk Podcast on Facebook or Instagram, you can check out me.
I was
shirtless to recording this episode.
I was trying to find that guy that they show on Your Mom's House, the nipple tweaking guy.
Oh, I love that guy.
He was just like going to town.
You like that? Bang. He just some people can't. I love the enthusiasm.
Yeah.
That man is clearly so excited to be showing you his calloused nipples that are just, oof.
Yeah. Ugh. So, I think I hit everything that I wanted to talk about.
This is such a great, just overall movie. It's good to watch. It's effective. I think you gotta check it out if you haven't already.
Yeah. Final recommendations, like this should be at the top of the list.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen number 3. I didn't care for it as much, and weird maybe because it was really highly praised by a lot of people, and then I watched it. I was like, it's all right.
I think pretty much any slasher that's highly praised falls flat. It's like, it's still just what it is.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Who knows what makes it better in people's minds. It might have been just a time or frame of mind or something.
It wasn't terrible.
Yeah. So apparently Dustin says number 2 is his favorite, and that there's a lot of
DGoble00 on Instagram.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that say it's the worst Elm Street. No, wait, this is Elm Street, yeah. And
number 2 is the one with the gay protagonist.
Yeah. And apparently the real life director and main actor were closeted homosexuals, so it kind of adds another layer to it. And I'm kind of curious of watching it. I've never seen it, so I might.
Maybe you all are homosexuals. Boo!
So yeah, check it out. So now let's not delay any longer. We had the pleasure to interview Freddy himself, Mr. Robert Englund, about his latest project where he voiced Linda Blair's character's father's gob of snot in J.J. Villard's Fairy Tales on Adult Swim. So here is our interview with Robert Englund. Thank you so much, Robert, for coming in and being interviewed here. We're really excited to talk to you. Horror Movie Talk is a horror movie review podcast, and it's been going on for close to 2 years now. And so we are right in the wheelhouse of a lot of your fans.
Yeah, big time.
I love talking to you guys because we're in such a great renaissance moment of time now. I'm not talking about the coronavirus. But in terms of all the platforms and all the streaming, people really do, especially the fans, if they really do their due diligence, I think they can find a lot more out there besides Avengers 14. There's just so much. I was just talking to a gentleman about a film I love called Hold the Dark with Jeffrey Wright. And it's just a terrific little film. But there's so many films like that have fallen through the cracks a bit. And they're so great. And I just love it when fans rediscover them, even if it's a year or so down the line. I think it's just so important to support all the good work that's being done. It doesn't always get, the publicity it deserves.
Well, we absolutely agree with you, and some of our favorite stuff is kind of the little hidden gems out there. Robert, I had my first question for you. This goes. I mean, a lot of my questions go way back to my childhood in the 80s, but I had a friend in school whose dad lived in New Mexico, and this friend claimed that his dad lived next to you. Did you ever live next to a man with the last name of Schoeneman, or was my friend full of shit?
No, to this day, I have a little casita in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And before I had my casita, I stayed in New Mexico a lot. So if he was in Santa Fe, it's probably true.
Oh my God. I thought he was just full of shit all this time.
Yeah. I haven't been there in the last year, but it's great. I got a buddy there, an actor, is my house sitter.
Wow.
And they do a lot of work in New Mexico. Breaking Bad is the easiest one.
Yeah.
But they shoot a lot there. And it's only like an hour flight from LA, so they can get a lot of our actors and talent as well. But it's really a great place in late spring, and it's really great from September through November. September, October is nice.
Yeah, my brother actually lived in New Mexico. He lived in Clovis, New Mexico, which is a thriving metropolis.
Well, it depends. They're like Taos is great.
Uh-huh.
And there's a couple of great places over in the Jemez Mountains and then Santa Fe. There's a lot of secret places. My wife and I drove over the mountains once in New Mexico. I'm trying to think of the name of that town we left from. But we were still in New Mexico. We were coming into Silver City, and we'd come over this narrow 2-lane road through the forest, and we were high in the mountains. And halfway through was a little tiny western town, and it had been completely taken over by the first wave of Silicon Valley money.
Huh. Oh, I thought you were going a way different direction. I thought that was going to be a Hills Have Eyes sort of scenario.
The first guys that got out, the first guys. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but this was around the time of everybody, Dave Letterman, Tom Brokaw, everybody was into fly fishing.
Oh, okay.
And fly fishing was the big deal. If you went to Sundance, Robert Redford was flying. Everybody was fly fishing. And halfway up this mountain, this little town, and all the money, all these people got out when the going was good. These people had Bill Gates money, some of them, and they all had these beautiful adobe, wood, oak ranch houses. They had this little town with a brand new Robert Altman, McCabe and Mrs. Miller, wooden oak sidewalk, gravel streets, the best 4x4s sitting around, old vintage Broncos. You went in the little tiny general store, and you could get a flexi flyer. You could get the best scotch in the world.
Ooh.
And you could get a can of Franco-American spaghetti. They had everything. Just this bizarre place. They also had their own private fish and hunt club, because that's how much money was in this little in the middle of nowhere.
Nice.
So it's a strange, people have been coming and going in New Mexico. Julia Roberts is up there in Taos, some other people. It's an interesting state.
Yeah. It's a beautiful state out there. I've visited a couple times. So you're here to talk a little bit about your new project, J.J. Villard's Fairy Tales, which we've viewed a couple screeners as pretty twisted little cartoon that's going to be on the Cartoon Network's Adult Swim, premiering May 10th at 12:30
at midnight, I believe.
Midnight.
Yeah, it's real late because it's strange. It's a strange show. In my episode, they call one of my characters Porridge Daddy, but when I did it, I was Linda Blair's father's gob of snot.
Okay.
Of course you were.
That gives you kind of
I love that
a
shit.
taste
It's
of
going
what
to be on IMDb for the rest of my life.
That's nice.
IMDb.
So how did you get involved with it?
Well, I do tons of voice work, and I've done a lot for Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network, and I've done Adult Swim. So somebody there must have known who I was. And I've been narrating movies and stuff for years and games. And but I just jumped at it because I knew that JJ had been associated with some of the Shrek's projects. And I love the idea that he was just doing these rough, twisted, gross, raw fairy tales, kind of just twisting and getting real surreal with the Brothers Grimm. When I was a kid, I remember the great Fractured fairy tales that came out of the Jay Ward studio, which did, of course, they did Rocky and Bullwinkle and Natasha and Boris and all of that stuff. But I just like the idea of kind of reinterpreting fairy tales and just getting really crazy beyond Mad Magazine and just off the wall, post Beavis and Butthead, post Rick and Morty, just going wherever you want to go. And I actually got to do the voice work to these weird kind of scribbled, penciled storyboards, which was really fun. I'd never done that before. Usually we do our voice work all alone in the booth, looking across an empty stage to the guys all sequestered in their little aquarium sound booth. But I actually had JJ sitting right next to me, giving me ideas all the time. And it was really a fun experience. Yeah,
you mentioned being like post Beavis and Butthead, post Rick and Morty. This is definitely that. J.J. Villard's Fairy Tales is about as off the wall horror oriented as I can think of. I had a question for you, Robert. When I was a little kid, I saw a piece of Nightmare on Elm Street 5 Dream Child, and it affected me. And I peed the bed multiple nights instead of risking running to the bathroom. Now take that in for a minute. What does that feel like to be responsible for bringing to life one of the most terrifying characters in movie history?
Well, I sort of anticipated and expected that over the years. And that's my job. And I would have to test my scare factor every once in a while backstage, back in the sound stage in the dark with some 6'2" grip in a tool belt. I would jump out from behind the scene and see if I still had it. Because after a while, everybody knows it's just Robert underneath latex, when you're on the set. And I'm just sitting around telling dirty jokes with its Teamsters. But no, the surprising thing, because it was so controversial when it first came out and dark, and it scared a lot of people, and it was banned in Canada or somewhere, and it really had ratings problems in some countries in Europe. Because I was so invested in all of that gossip and those stories, I didn't realize that actually the real phenomenon of Nightmare on Elm Street is it was such a magnificently popular video and then DVD sale. And there are 8 movies, and they would come out every year for 10 years. Every year there was one coming out, and then they'd come out with extras, and then they'd come out, box set, and you'd have to get them for the art, and then they'd come out DVD, and then Blu-ray, and and box set, and extras, and the making of, and there's 2 generations of fans that experienced the Nightmare on Elm Street movies at home, in their living room, in the dark with some cold pizza and some warm beer, and mom or dad or big brother or big sister or the next door neighbors or the babysitter. And they got just as scared as you did, but in their home.
Yeah.
And they have the memory of it is shared. They're not alone watching it. They're watching their sister pee her pants. Or they're listening to their dad. They're listening to their dad outside, and he's got a rake and he's scratching the outdoor window with a rake to scare the kids.
Boy, man, that's
brother is dressing in an old slouch hat, and he's got popsicle sticks taped to his fingers, and he's making his shadow on the wall of the younger brother's room.
Hold on, I got to write down some of these for my kids.
It was such a family experience for so many years, literally from 85 until 2010. And because, Freddy versus Jason was 2004, and then we had to wait for that DVD to come out. And so, and there's always people catching on, Johnny Come Lately, to the project, and they're watching it on a video or DVD or streaming it. Mm-hmm. And so Freddie invaded the home. He really did get into the house. Every town has an Elm Street. Every home has an Elm Street. But the experience was one, in looking back and in hindsight, it's a shared family experience. And I can't tell you how many fans, especially people that have lost their parents, or lost a brother in Iraq or Afghanistan or a sister. They have this memory of the Nightmare on Elm Street films as this great shared family experience. The family that gets scared together stays together, and it's just this weird adjunct to what you're saying. I anticipated that I was going to make a lot of kids shit their pants. That's what I thought I was supposed to do. But when you hear about families sharing one of those old, 1980s blankets on the back of the couch, mm-hmm. It looks like they're made from potholders, and they're all sitting around with pizza breath, and they've turned all the lights off in the living room, and they're watching Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, and they've rented it. They couldn't afford to go see it in the movie theaters because movie prices got too expensive. But now it was out on video, and mom and dad let them choose it on the weekend. They had it all weekend before they had to take it back. Remember, you used to have to take those things back. So you'd watch it, and this is the first time there was pause buttons, and the first time there was rewind and replay. So people really studied the movies, and they watched them, and they would scare themselves over and over, and they would memorize the dialogue. And it's just this great, weird hindsight gift that I have from my fans that I never even realized at the time.
Yeah. So you've, obviously Nightmare on Elm Street is one of the greatest franchises in horror history and a huge part of your career. Even on just those movies, you've worked with a lot of directors, but if you look at your IMDb, you've got over 160 acting credits, which I assume has crossed your paths with lots of different directors. Do you have any favorite directors to work with or my
beloved Wes Craven and my beloved Tobe Hooper, who are gone now.
Yeah.
May they rest in peace. Both of those guys let me do what I want. And I love that. They totally trusted me the moment I had the part. But I got spoiled early on, you guys. I had Daniel Petrie, whose boys are still working and are big deals in the Directing Guild Union, and they do a lot of work. Daniel Petrie, the whitest guy in the world, Daniel directed me in my first movie and was also my first starring role, 1973. He'd done the original Raisin in the Sun, and Sidney Poitier and Ruby Dee and Lou Gossett Jr., these amazing actors that he discovered, African-American Oscar-winning movie stars, they all became. And Dan taught me something very valuable. I had this is back in the day, and they weren't as sophisticated, and I was playing an albino Southerner, And I have light green eyes. And they wanted to make my eyes look pink because I was an albino. And they gave me red contact lenses. And they were made in Beverly Hills at great expense. But they were like putting, tea saucers in my eyes, and they were huge and uncomfortable. And I could feel them. They felt like they weighed a pound each. And they made my eyes brown because red and green make brown. Oh. So my eyes were actually darker than they were in real life. And albinos have very light eyes. And on my first day of shooting, I said, Dan, I don't think I can wear these. I said, my eyes are watering. They look darker. All I can think about is how much they weigh. I can feel them in there. I'm blinking funny. And I said, let me just take them out and let me squint like an albino that's light sensitive. And my own light eyes, I think that'll work. And he said, you're absolutely right. Those things look like shit. Take them out. He goes, Robert, the eyes are the windows of the soul. And, on your first movie, starring role, A-list director, and for him to take your advice and make your job that much easier and give you that much confidence and trust, it's just a great, great experience. And I went right from that into Stay Hungry with Jeff Bridges and Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sally Field. And Bob Rafelson really trusted me on that. Really let me choreograph a fight scene a little bit, really treated me like an equal. I'm hanging out. Practically had Scatman Crothers as a roommate from The Shining.
Wow. No way.
We had an adjoining room together. Yeah. Wow. And the experiences like that with directors that kind and humane, it really gives you a boost of confidence early on.
I've got a question for you regarding kind and humane directors, because I didn't realize until you just said it that you had worked with Tobe Hooper on Night Terrors and I think another movie.
Oh, I did 5 movies with Tobe. My best thing I did with Tobe is a thing for Showtime called Masters of Horror.
But my question is, Tobe is obviously, there's a lot of talk about it's still about how badly he treated everyone on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And was that your experience at all with Tobe, or
no? Tobe was one of the best directors, one of the kindest, gentlest guys.
Wow.
I've ever worked with. Toby's voice is like a bark. It kind of bark. Robert, I want you over here now. Okay.
That sounds like my dad.
But he's the sweetest guy in the world. He's just got that barky chain smoker's voice. But no, Tobe is intellectual, knows history, knows all kinds of music, knows exactly what he needs and wants. I think that Texas Chainsaw Massacre was a extreme low budget movie made in Texas in the heat of summer.
Yeah, sounds pretty miserable.
And everybody would have been miserable with sticky blood all over you and working 14 or 15 hours straight. But everybody was. That's just the nature of that project. Yeah. When I worked with Marilyn Burns. I worked with his star from that movie. And I've been drunk with Gunnar Hansen. And they never said a bad word about Tobe to me.
Wow, that's awesome. That changes my whole outlook on that. Did you have another question, Bryce, or did you want to go with one of mine?
I just had kind of a general question. You know, this project that you're on, J.J. Villard's Fairy Tales, and you mentioned the twisted fairy tales in your childhood. Do you think, what do you think is like the scariest fairy tale to tell your kids?
Well, if it's done right, dark, boy, Rumpelstiltskin is pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
That's nasty. And then there's what the Billy Goat, what is the troll under the bridge?
Billy Goat Gruff.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. But, Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah.
German. Yeah. Brothers Grimm, Germanic. And it's a cautionary tale. My little children, there's a great famine now in our Uber Germany. There is no food. If you do not behave, you must leave the home. You must leave. Now, what happens if you're a little kid and you leave home in the middle of a famine, banished by your parents into the dark forest, into the black forest? What's the first indication of starvation? You hallucinate. And what would you hallucinate if you're a starving child? A house made of strudel and pie and cream. Gute German cream for me and my men.
You know,
that's how dark that shit was.
Robert, I think your next project needs to be you narrating Grimm's Brothers fairy tales in a German accent. I would pay good money for that.
Doug Bradley and I did some H.P. Lovecraft that came out pretty good on CDs. There's a couple of those that came out pretty good.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to see Gretel and Hansel, the recent?
Literally, you guys, this is funny. It's literally the top of the list by the side of my bed.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
Yeah. I literally got all caught up yesterday. I'm pretty caught up. I mean, I'm looking forward. I want to see where they're going with Penny Dreadful, City of Angels. And there's some other stuff I'm looking forward to, but that's the top of my list for Nancy and I.
Yeah, we'll
have some homemade quesadilla and some chilled white wine and the dog at our feet. And if the weather gets a little nicer, we'll open the windows and we'll watch the sunset over Catalina and go right into Gretel und Hansel.
Sounds like you're really roughing it during COVID.
Well, there's one of the tricks to do, you guys, and you guys can write this off like I can write it off. It's R&D.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
On Fridays, I put on demand. I go through all the new discoveries, all the new releases, and anytime there's a trailer I want to see, I watch the trailer for free. Then I go over to Netflix. I look at all the new stuff. I look at all the trailers. They're all free. And then I go over to Prime Video and I see if there's any new Amazon movies or any new Prime Video stuff, whether it's Ozark or Harry. And I look at the trailers. If it's something that I think I'll like, maybe it's some Scandinavian noir, Volvos and the blood on the snow. Yeah. And then maybe I'll go to iTunes or somewhere else and I look at the trailers. And now I have a list by the side of my bed of 4 or 5 things I want to see, and I've been finding a lot of great stuff, and I've been finding stuff that's, slipped through the cracks too.
In your searches for all these, through it sounds like you're an avid, movie connoisseur. Have you ever come across any movie or show that really struck you as being too much or too scary? Have you found your limits ever?
Well, in terms of slasher or grindhouse, just by the nature of those formats, they don't get to me as much. What gets me more is the surprise. I'm trying to think of the last thing I saw. The last thing I saw that caught me by surprise and freaked me out, and I shit my pants and I had to turn away for just a second, was Bone Tomahawk.
Oh man, great! That was so spectacular.
And you know what Bone Tomahawk is? It's Samuel Beckett meets Samuel Peckinpah in the opening, and you've got Sid Haig and David Arquette doing Waiting for Godot on the graveyard of ancient Americans, Anasazi, Indian sacred grounds, right? And they're body snatchers, they're grave robbers. So they're like 2 characters out of a Peckinpah play, but they're also Waiting for Godot with their bowler hats and their ill-fitting suits. So there's then where do you go? Then you go into Howard Hawks' freshly painted American West with Kurt, oh my God, help me, Russell as John Wayne, and Patrick Wilson as Jimmy Stewart, and Matthew Fox from Lost doing the dandy, the man with a pearl-handled revolver, the dandy that can shoot, the dandy who does have some heroism. And you meet them all, and it's all set up, and the woman gets kidnapped, and now our three heroes ride out into the landscape from their Howard Hawks, McCabe and Mrs. Miller, Robert Altman, brand new frontier town. Now they leave. They leave their Clint Eastwood Pale Rider town, and they ride out into the landscape, and they find the Indians, and there's an ambush, and it's fabulous. And then it turns into full fucking cannibal Italian horror.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I didn't see it coming, man.
I know. Yeah. I had it recommended to me just kind of off the cusp from someone who was like, you'd probably like this. And yeah, what a welcome surprise that movie was.
There's another one called Blue Ruin.
Yes. That one was also spectacular. I
the
believe
actor in Blue Ruin is also in Hold the Dark.
I've seen Blue Ruin. I haven't seen Hold the Dark.
It's amazing. Yeah.
I got to check that out because I think I've seen that mentioned as well.
It's Jeffrey Wright from Westworld, Skarsgård from True Blood, Riley Keough.
I love Skarsgård.
And literally in the middle of the movie, and it's dark shit. It's Lupin Wolf legend in Native American lore exploited on white trash kids, and they're in the middle of this weird, dirty, muddy myth on the reservation. In the middle of it, there's a shootout. It's the best edited, best shootout in the history of movies.
Yeah, it's great.
It's unbelievable. You got to see it. Yeah.
Robert, you're a horror movie icon. You're a movie icon. You're one of the defining. You've made one of the defining characters in all of horror. I want to be respectful of your time. I just have two more quick questions for you, and then I'll let you go. The first question is, will you be Freddy again?
No, never. I would love to do a cameo in a reboot. I'd love to go back and in the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors and play the dream analyst, the therapist that was played by Amy Irving's mother.
Oh, that'd be great. Pointer.
I would love to play her part, be the skeptical doctor. I think it would be fun. I think it would be a great use of cameo in a remake. Something like that would be fun. But no, they got to get a new Freddy.
I don't know, man. I think if you're not going to reprise the role, then Freddy may be dead.
I don't know. It's Freddy versus Viagra.
My last question for you, Robert. Would you please give us a soundbite? Just something like, "Hi, this is Robert Englund, and you're listening to Horror Movie Talk."
Okay. Yeah. You ready?
Yep. Totally ready.
Okay. Hi, Robert Englund here, a.k.a. Freddy fucking Krueger. And you're listening to Horror Movie Talk.
Bravo. Thank you so much, Robert. Okay. We really appreciate your time.
All right.
You have a good day.
You have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey. Oh, you're a crazy guy. Thank you so much, Robert. We really appreciate you giving us that interview. I've been on cloud nine.
Yeah.
This is just the best.
And I've never wanted to go to New Mexico more.
Never. Yeah. It seems like a magical place instead of potentially the most boring place on earth. No.
So, let's get into It Came From Social Media.
Yes, it came
from social media.
To fill the world with terror, to bring you unforgettable suspense. What was it? Where did it come from? Who were the all-powerful creatures it brought
from social media?
And what did they want on Earth?
Came From Social Media is a segment where we read comments from, you guessed it, social media. Lot of chatter on social media this last week.
You
know. Twitter, Annabelle J, or at Joker O'Doom, said, I absolutely love dark humor, and everything you guys said really resonated, talking about, what was the movie she was... I don't remember what she was referring to. Oh, yeah, Hereditary. That's what it was. gave a listen to the Hereditary episode, and it was awesome. I rarely listen to podcasts, but this one just hooked me. So.
Hey, Annabelle, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also on Twitter, Shay Loves Horror at Shay Loves Horror. She says, "Hey, I just found your podcast. I'd have to say my favorite horror movie would be As Above, So Below. I could watch that movie 100 times."
Yeah. Well, I got good news for you, Annabelle. We will be reviewing that movie this month because our patrons voted.
Oh, really?
And someone switched their vote, so finally we have not a three-way tie. So
excellent.
We're going to watch As Above, So Below. So you'll see our take on that, definitely. Dr. Thoughts.
I agree, by the way. I mean, well, I kind of do. As Above, So Below is such a feel, like it gives you, it's a perspective-changing movie kind of feeling.
Yeah. Dr. Thoss, or at fucking Suave Ben, said, listening to your podcast now, the Witch episode, my favorite horror movie would be Mulholland Drive, but that's probably controversial, so I'll say The Exorcist Chainsaw and The Shining. Sorry, it's impossible to name just one. That's a common thing. Like, I ask everyone what their favorite horror movie is, but if you're a real horror fan, it's hard to pick one.
Yeah,
because
feel free.
You have more than one fear. So, he said, I recently found that out. Oh, wait. Oh, to me, he said, to me, Lynch is our greatest living horror director, but never gets mentioned in these discussions. His movies actually really disturb me. Yeah, David Lynch he's not thought of as a horror director, but there's definitely very strong horror elements, and he's more of like a surrealist or,
I mean, have you seen Eraserhead?
I haven't.
It is... I mean, it's just one of these experiential movies, where it's like, oh, yeah. I mean, he does a lot of existential stuff where it's like the horror of life kind of thing. Yeah. So if that's your bag, I've never seen Mulholland Drive. I have seen The Moment in Mulholland Drive, the one that everybody touts as being maybe potentially one of the most disturbing jump scares ever. But yeah, I've never seen the actual thing. Robbie at Sleepy Socks on Twitter.
Sleepy Sockets.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. He says, hey, no problem. I've heard one ep so far and loved it. He listened to us, so I'll definitely be listening to more. He also says picking a favorite is so hard, so it's by no means definitive, but his top horror movies off the top of his head are Nightmare on Elm Street series. Yeah, he cheats on that. The Exorcist and Scream. So a lot of Wes Craven, big Wes Craven fan, are my three faves. I love so many, though. He also says, I've been working my way through the Halloween movies again and went in search for related podcasts on Pocket Cast, which I guess is an Android app, and I found Horror Movie Talk there. Can't wait for the new episode. I'll be sure to visit the older episodes before then.
Because I told him our next episode was going to be this one, A Nightmare on Elm Street, so he was excited to hear about that. At T-Moon, and then his name is a bunch of, I'm assuming, Chinese characters. Anyway, at T-Moon __.
You're not allowed to talk about China.
He said pretty much he's heard every single episode by now of the show. As soon as I found you guys, I went on a binge. And he says, I need a Halloween 3 review from you guys. Season of the Witch is amazing, and I'm sure you guys would love it, even though Michael's not in it.
Keith has a blog specifically about that movie. It's a big compendium specifically about how that movie did not get its fair shake. So yeah, we should we've been, over the past 2 Halloweens, we've reviewed Halloween 1, Halloween 2, and Halloween the 2018. Yeah. So I guess we'll probably just keep that trend going.
Yeah, I mean, we seem to be doing, intentionally at least a Halloween movie episode during October.
Yeah.
Okay, so on Facebook now, friend of the show, Magnus, I call him Magnus the Manus, he had a comment after listening to our last episode. He said, okay, strong feelings about slashes. Obviously, my favorite is Halloween.
Why is that obvious?
I don't know. People, it's like the granddaddy.
I guess. Okay, go on.
But me and my friend recently watched all the Friday ones in a massive row, and I have found a true love and respect for Jason.
True.
Even though the sequels become so fucking dumb at a point. It's funny how they always feel a need to retell the basic plot of the first movie, even in fucking space. Thousands of miles from Earth, and in the future, they still talk about a local urban legend killer, which is a good point. And then he said, all that said, I always saw Texas as one of the big five and not Hellraiser. And then he also said, so I reached the end of the episode, and yes, that's what all Swedes sound like, and actually what I think I sound like. And yes, Bryce is extremely racist, probably worse than Hitler. So here, I pulled the clip that he's talking about, where you were being
tremendous racist.
We assumed what,
it could have just been any episode. You could have just pulled at random, and you'd be a huge racist.
Yeah,
probably.
That's true.
Magnus, our boy from Swedetown, he says, "Oh, my boys are moving up in the world." I don't know if that's how he said. He probably said it like in a
My boys are moving up in the town. I'm pretty sure that's how he said.
Yeah. Racist.
So I think that's pretty accurate. Thanks, Magnus. We love you.
Dave S reached out to us. That was on Facebook. He says he lives in Phoenixville, PA, the home of Colonial Theater, which is the setting for the original Blob movie. In fact, we have a Blob Fest. This is the second or third time I've heard about Blob Fest within the past couple of weeks. In fact, we have a Blob Fest every year to commemorate. Long story short, it's another local theater that's aging. Since it holds history in horror canon, I think it would make a good shout out in the podcast for support. So you guys check out what was the name of that theater?
Colonial something?
The Colonial Theater in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. So check them out. Give them some support in this time where they are surely hurting. And and tell them HMT sent you.
On patrons, on Patreon, we've been talking to our patrons. Crispy. I'm just going to call her Crispy Bacon. Crispy says, have you seen 30 Days? It's like a modern take on the vampires and the cold, dark environment.
Is that 30 Days of Night? I think it is.
Probably.
I think that's what she's
The people hiding in and under their houses terrifies me. And I think I'm going to have to watch it again. I have not seen that.
I have. I don't like it. Oh. It feels like that dumb... I hate it. I hate those things. I'm sorry, Crispy. It's one of these things where it feels like, what's that movie Underworld, where it's like vampires versus werewolves, but it's just kind of actiony.
Yeah.
I don't like action in my horror movies for some weird reason.
And then she calls out Haunting of Hill House, the series on Netflix. She says it's better than most horror movies I've seen in the last 2 years, which we agree.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Haunting of Hill House. We had multiple discussions where we were like, should we have an episode on this?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's a fabulous show. I think
Mike Flanagan has not made a bad movie or TV show in years.
A bold statement. But Chris, everybody's like I've been quoted as saying many times, everybody's taste is shitty. Definitely mine. So, it's just a 6 of one, half a dozen of another. If you like it, I'm happy for you.
And she says, glad to be part of the patron club. And we're glad that you joined us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Jason C has been memeing us hard.
Yeah.
I like the one where he's got me farting and your face is just like he says, need both of your help to settle a 3-year argument. When I convinced one of my friends to see it, she hates horror movies, we had no knowledge of the story behind it, so we were going in blind. After the characters were all introduced, she said, the black kid is going to die first. Jason's response was, no, the fat kid is going to die first because he can't run. Obviously, we were both wrong according to the film outcome, but I want to know who's right when both tropes are in the same movie. Does the fat kid die first, or does the black kid die first?
And we disagreed on this, I think.
Yeah, what did you say?
I said the fat kid.
Now, what's your logic behind that?
Okay, so the black guy always dies first trope has not been true for decades. What's become a trope since the 70s is pointing out that the black guy always dies first.
Hang on. I have to defend myself here.
Like at least since the 90s.
No. You're insane. You're
people
an
have said
insane person.
They break the fourth wall and say, "Hey, I'm black. I'm not gonna, be the one that dies first because that's what always happens in horror movies." And I don't think that's really the case anymore.
Listen, I cannot understand you. This is crazy. You're a fool. I can't cope with the stupid bitchy. Understand?
On the other hand, the fat kid or the fat characters, whether they're likable or not, they are definitely the weakest and get picked off.
Here we go. In 300, Leonidas kicks the black messenger down a well first.
Okay, not a horror movie.
Doesn't matter. It's a movie trope.
No, it's a horror movie trope specifically.
The black guy dying first is a movie trope. It doesn't have to be a horror movie trope. It just has to be a movie. Okay, fine. Aliens versus Predators, Requiem. A group of 5 students. The black guy dies first. American Psycho. The first victim of Patrick Bateman is a black man. That was 2000. Baby Driver.
It was?
Yeah.
Who was the black guy that...
He was the homeless person.
Oh, okay.
I have nothing in common with you. Let's see here. The Bucket List.
Jesus. This is scraping the bottom of the bucket.
Child's Play 2019. It just goes on and on and on. Deadpool 2. It's extremely common. Evil Dead 2013. Yeah, so,
it's not extremely common. You've named 5 films in the last 3 decades.
How many can I name?
How many horror movies have been made in the last 3 decades that have a black character in them? And you've named, 2 actual horror movies.
Bryce, this list isn't easy to go through. This is on the fly.
Am I wrong that it's a trope to point out that black people die first?
Well, sure, that's a trope too. Midsummer. Black guy dies first. Huh. He's the first one to be sacrificed. The first one to unwillingly be killed.
To unwillingly be killed.
Right, because
Okay.
Well, because there are people that just in the storyline of the movie sacrifice themselves. So that, that's one of those things where it's kind of like, could be one or the other.
Okay. All right, whatever. I disagree. I think, there's no article that talks about the fat kid dying first, but I'm sure they're more plentiful.
You're sure that they're more plentiful? Okay. Well, I look forward. So I've done some footwork on this. I look forward to seeing your stats, fair and balanced stats that will Unfriended Dark Web, a movie we've reviewed. That was, I think, the second movie we reviewed. Yeah. He's the first to die. Oh, but he was an Asian character. My apologies. Wait a minute. Color Out of Space? What is this? No, that one's inverted. He's the only one who lives.
Yeah.
So there you go.
All right. I stand behind my statement.
And you will never back it up.
Sarah says, "Hi, I'm a huge fan of horror movies, and I've been trying to find a podcast that not only talks about horror movies, but has a host or hosts that I can connect to. You guys are so amazing, and I've enjoyed every episode I've listened to. My all-time favorite horror movie is a tie between Halloween and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but right now I'm obsessed with Adam Driver, so I love The Dead Don't Die. I'm glad I can support you guys."
Man, we're glad, too. Man, I do love Adam Driver. We recently went on a kick where, sometimes where you'll just focus on one actor and just watch a bunch of their stuff. He's got, what was that one that I mentioned to her?
The Report.
Yeah, I really like The Report.
Yeah, that was really good.
And Marriage Story, obviously.
Marriage Story is fantastic.
Yeah, it's so real. And that's one of those ones that I think it struck us both, where it's like, How is it that I've never seen a divorce movie before? Like a movie that specifically about the horrors of divorce.
About how every divorce like pans out.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh yeah, we don't need to involve lawyers in this. Let's just do this amicably. Cut to female friend talking to the wife. Like, oh yeah, I mean, sure, but you should talk to my lawyer.
Yeah.
Like, just to protect yourself, you know.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it's like, okay.
It goes down a horrible hellhole.
Not that it always starts out with the women, but yeah, divorces can be ugly. Yeah, Adam Driver's great. So that's it for our episode today. Thanks for reaching out to us on social media. Thanks to our patrons. Again, thanks to Sarah and John.
You sure about that?
John M. Well, I've mentioned I'm pretty sure that's right. For joining the patron crew.
Yeah, Sarah and John.
Please, if you like the episode, share it with a friend. Consider supporting the show by either going to our website and clicking through on the button in the banner to Amazon, or consider becoming a patron. So thanks to all our patrons. Thanks to Robert Englund for letting us interview him. And check out J.J. Villard's Fairy Tales on Adult Swim.
Yeah, at
Sunday nights at 12
midnight. Is it Sundays or Saturdays? Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is Sundays. Yeah. I think it is Sundays. So it's May 10th is when it premiered. So yeah, Sunday nights.
And to close out the episode, Max was inspired by our last episode to do a soundbite. So we're going to let that play us out. Here is Max's take on David's mouth guitar solo. Not that. That's my spooky mic stand.
We love you guys.
Okay, bye. Everyone. Bye-bye.
You know?
I think I know what you're talking about.
Welcome to Horror Movie Talk.
The rest of your day is phone calls? Do you want to go upstairs?
I'll go upstairs and do those. Nooking everything off and clean up down here.
I will.
Chairs back in the before I die.
That was awesome.
I'm gonna like cry. That was
fucking awesome.
I cannot believe. Wow. Robert Englund gave us a soundbite
as Freddy Krueger.